laughing and you smiling and going, hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm going to let Nikki introduce this. This is the WNY Report. Notice I say report, kind of like Stephen Colbert report. Kick it off for us, Nikki.
Hello, friends. So we're just kind of starting. We're going to get started here in a second. We don't see anyone on our radar just yet. So before we start diving in too deep, I don't want to talk too much because then nobody's going to know why we're here.
Hmm.
Yes. So you are on the Western New York report that starts at 8 o'clock. We are 3 minutes early, Paula.
We
So
are 3 minutes early. And what does it look like on LinkedIn?
I don't know. We should look. Oh, so I just hit join. Oh, we're there. Holy shit. I can see us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. All
There we
right.
are. There we are with my
Yeah,
big.
we're on this. We're on it. All right. Well, we still can't start because that'd be rude. I hate it when people, yeah,
Right.
Jordan's here.
Hello,
Rochelle's here.
Rochelle.
Yeah, baby. It's
And
worked, you guys. It
Morgan,
worked. Lord Mundell. Yes, I did it.
and
Boom.
none other than Mark Waller. So,
I'm Mark.
Mark, when we said the Western New
I
York, we didn't mean Midwest.
am.
Okay. You have 11 people on. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you,
So,
Lord. The update.
so
Frank
Nikki,
is here.
we are doing the WNY report. And, in a tip of the hat to Stephen Colbert and the Colbert Report, and acknowledging that Western New York actually does have a fair amount of influence from French Canada. I wonder if we should call this the WNY Report. I'll
No,
leave that to you.
very
No?
nice. Very nice idea. I think
Very
I
nice.
like report much less rapport. I don't know. It sounds a little snooty. We don't want to be too over that. So why are we here? Why did Nikki Lawley spend 2 whole days trying to figure out how to live stream on LinkedIn? That would be Paula's fault. Paula's fault. We are here because we were talking that Western New York just seems to be getting swallowed up by New York City and all the amazing events you guys have there compared to here. All the educational opportunities, whether it's universities, whether it's just hearing, some of my favorites speak. It's really hard and it kind of sucks that we don't get the same opportunity. And yet we're just often forgotten about in regulations and, how the whole thing rolls out. We're just sort of the forgotten redheaded stepchildren. So Paula was saying, how can we bring Western New York to the whole table so that we're all sitting at the big same table? Because guess what? These divided little islands, these little flags on your own and doing your little thing is not working as a community. It's not keeping the cannabis community united. And I just want to say, guys, that I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you hating and fighting and just bickering over things that we all care about, but ultimately, if we get hyper focused on the negative, nothing's ever going to be solved. So, Paula and I are coming together to kind of just be transparent and just literally talk about the issues in a way that isn't like wham, 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 but actually talk about things and like how can we solve them and how can we work together. I mean, let's face it, we have licensing that just went down for anyone that had property for several of the licenses that came out. Woo woo. So we've got a lot of applications now in the uh, kitty, if you will, and good luck to all. It's totally different this round, Paula, and perhaps we can talk about the difference between the card applicants when they went for their retail license and just say the property owners or people that have secured properties for retail dispensaries. Can you share what the difference is when they're applying now? What's the main thing like?
Right. So, Hello, everybody, and thanks for getting us kicked off, Nikki. I think that as I talk to people, we had the priority deadline in New York it was the first time in the history of the state of New York that just an everyday ordinary person could apply for a cannabis license or a license to operate a cannabis business pursuant to, that's a legal term, or as a result of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which was signed into law March 31st, 2021. So it was the first time that we could do that. And so the priority deadline was November the 17th, which was on Friday, 5 p.m. And then the portal is still open until December the 18th. And what Nikki was talking about with the property ownership, and I do know a few people who went on and put in their applications, even though they don't have access to property. So the state wanted, or the portal required, that we needed to upload either a copy of the lease or a copy of the deed if you own the property, to show that you had control of a piece of property. And that was true for all of the license applications like cultivation, manufacturing, processing. Although I did have a question on processing because there is a tier 4 white label
I thought it was tier.
processing license.
Isn't it tier 3 processor?
Tier 4
Okay.
is just white label.
Okay.
And so I wondered, why does that need control of a property? Because it's being touted as a branding license, a license to brand and make arrangements. But anyway, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But definitely, if you wanted priority consideration as a retail dispensary applicant, you needed to upload a copy of your lease or a copy of your deed to the property. Um, and the tricky thing, oh, and there was also the social and economic equity applicant, that's called C. So as you walked through the screens, you were asked, are you a social and economic equity applicant? Are you a woman applicant? Because women fell into that category under C. And then it was kind of cool, very high tech. When you clicked on that, yes, then your application went to another application. All of this happening within the New York Business Express website, which is its own little kind of circle of hell. I always have difficulty getting in, and what works for me is to open up an incognito window. So if you are out there and you've been struggling with, I can't even get into New York Business Express, um, Google, how do I search incognito? And I find that that always works. What happens with me, because I will work on New York Business Express on behalf of a lot of different clients where I'm using their login information to go in and accomplish something, it all gets fumbled with my own. And then I have a profile for myself personally and a profile for my business. So I find an incognito window works. So when you're working in New York Business Express in this license portal, when you click yes on C, social and economic equity, it took you to another application process. But once you completed that, and that was a little bit like CARD in that if you had prior charges, you could upload a copy of your charges. Or if you were a woman applicant, or if you were from what's called CDI. Um, what is CDI? What is CDI? Did, oh, come on. Why am I drawing?
Community is
Community is
disproportionately.
disproportionately impacted. Thank you very much. You saved me, Nikki Lawley. Community is disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And so if you could verify that, and if that was your category, if that was your into social and economic equity, you needed to show proof that you were either born in such a zip code, or that you had lived a certain number of years, certain critical years, like the
Between.
first 5 years of your life, or a grand total of 7 years.
Was
Uh,
it 7?
yeah, it's a lot. Um, and of course, they're going to verify all of this. And then once you completed that C application, you submitted that, but then they gave a little tiny, tiny message that said, wait, you've completed this application, but you haven't completed the cannabis application. So then it would take you back to the cannabis application, and you could walk through the screens there. So all of that, we're kind of at a pivot point, which is again why what happened to me yesterday, I will just tell you. Um, Friday was a little bit of a strange inflection point in New York cannabis. Um, and I am reading some of the, yeah, there's Lauren's comment. Hello, Lauren. Um, I would like to key in on that, but I'll tell you what happened. And speaking of Lauren, I woke up. So Friday, we were in the middle of doing all of this, and I also am a tax preparer, and so we had some New York corporate tax returns for California that were due because California had had a succession of disasters, and so it was like April the 15th all over again, except it was November the 16th. So I got through those. And plus, I had this 5 p.m. deadline. And of course, people were sending me documents. And then what was it? Nikki, was it Wednesday or Thursday that the New York Cannabis Control?
Friday, 10 a.m.
But when did they announce that? Was
Oh,
it?
the day before,
Yeah,
perhaps the day before, or maybe Wednesday, but I feel like I saw it for the first time Thursday.
Yeah,
So
so somewhere, very last minute, we got notice that there would be discussion of the settlement, which there has been a settlement reached in concept on this lawsuit, the Fiore lawsuit, Fiore being an individual who, along with three colleagues, all of them disabled veterans, have sued the state of New York because of this whole social and economic equity issue. And so there's been this injunction, and that's why we don't have a lot of this. We don't have any dispensaries opening right now. I see Lauren saying 12 to 24-hour notices. So we had this frantic, it felt like, announcement that we would be discussing this at 10 a.m. on Friday. And so, on top of, like I say, my California tax returns, on top of the 5 p.m. deadline that was already in place, I was actually hoping that they would announce in the meeting, guess what? Because we took you away from your desk or from your work, we're going to give you another 24 hours. But no, they didn't do that. They instead opened the meeting with saying, we're not going to discuss this conditional or this in concept sort of settlement. So that was a letdown, right? And I posted on LinkedIn, we just heard the sound of thousands of New Yorkers logging off of the cannabis control meeting, because I know a lot of people logged in just to hear discussion of it. And then instead of sending out another email saying, guess what, we can't discuss it. And so let's talk a little bit, Nikki, about, did you wonder why they couldn't discuss it? Was that a question that popped up? I mean, amongst other expletives like what the, and
yeah, you know me and
all of
my
the
favorite
string
exit.
together all of the magical words. Um,
Yes.
did you wonder why they couldn't talk about it?
Yeah, I was like, really? Like, that was the most important aspect I felt of the meeting, quite honestly. And you're calling it on Friday when you've got all these people scrambling to get their applications in. What I really wanted you to say, Paula, like out of all those great pieces of tidbits of information, was the biggest difference between this time with the applications and the card dispensary applications was there's going to be a lottery for the application process. So unlike card, which was scored and you had actually um, certain criteria you had to meet, this one literally is going to be okay. If you're a C applicant, you're going to be in this category. Yes, fine. There is going to be some division, but at the end of the day, they're picking a number out of the hat. And so there was really no place on the application, is my understanding, to really tote like what you've done for the community and why your business is going to be a success because, you know, you've got X, Y, and Z following, and this is your dream for 30 years. And, you've helped so many people with medicine in the community, like whatever. But there was no place to put any of that. And I found that exceptionally frustrating for those that have worked so hard to really bring it to the table. Like they've been playing within those coloring lines and doing what they're supposed to do. And now at the end of the story, they're like, I'm just going to be thrown in a hat and I might not even be pulled out. Like, that's really scary after you put your life savings, your life on the line, and all this money. And so, yes, the Fiore lawsuit has a big impact, but I was really looking for this whole lottery thing. Like, I didn't really understand that until the portal opened. And when I heard that, I was like, WTF are they doing? Like, how can they do that? There's so many people that are working so hard to do this the right way, and they're not opening sticker shops. They're not opening, selling things in the underground market anymore. They've like gone above board, and now they have hemp licenses and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, I just feel like the lottery system seems kind of cruel. And in my mind, I thought they went to the lottery system based on like the Fiore lawsuit, like eliminate all that pre criteria and just allow it to be a blind application. So, I mean, to me, that's what I saw was the benefit. But when we were talking earlier, you kind of shed some light on that.
Okay. And you said a lot. And by the way, in case you randomly see me smile or almost laugh out loud, I'm reading the comments. I don't know if you're able to read the
Yeah.
comments. And so I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at
No,
some
you can.
comments. And we'll get to the comments in a moment. But so, yeah, we were talking about the lottery. And honestly, we didn't learn a lot about the card
No.
process or the scoring process until that went to a lawsuit. Remember, we
Yep.
learned more about how they scored card after the card application was closed and after Mr. Gay of the Verasite lawsuit filed his lawsuit saying that he felt that it was a violation of the interstate commerce rules, that they wanted to lock him out of being an applicant in New York. And then when the attorney general's office went to court and explained, oh, no, 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 here is how we scored. And actually, Your Honor, we don't need to have the injunction prevail over all of the regions. Here is how we are going to score. And of course, all of the attorneys, you could just hear the attorneys across the state both lean in to read the fine print as to how they were scoring and going, oh, why couldn't they have told us this when we were preparing the applications? Because honestly, we thought card was going to be lottery. It was kind of presented to us. And then the other thing that we wondered was it going to be based on, well, my charges were worse than yours, like I was maybe a bigger criminal than you, and so maybe I deserve the license more. We had no idea. We had no earthly idea. And then as you talked about that community component, because that was a part of the card process as well. So this, what we're told so far, and perhaps we will learn more about how they're scoring it. God forbid there would be another lawsuit, but we could perhaps see that happen. But what we know so far is that they will get this pile of, I mean, figuratively speaking, right? Because it's all on computer. But let's say they had a stack of applications that they printed, I don't know, for God knows what reason. And then once you're in that pool of, you've checked all the boxes, you actually qualify for this license, you paid your fee and it was accepted. Then after that point, they will apparently go by lottery. And that's about all that we know. So there was this perception that you needed to get your application in, although that doesn't really make sense from a lottery standpoint, does it? Because if they draw your number and your number is number 2,215, then you're a winner compared to somebody who was number one. So a lottery is a lottery. But like I say, I don't know. We don't know. And it's possible they don't know yet how these are going to be scored. So the interesting thing about the lottery also, I thought it was imposed, and this was what Nikki and I were talking about earlier. I thought the lottery was imposed so that because they anticipated getting tens of thousands of applications. And it still might happen before December the 18th, because remember, the portal is still open. In fact, I think it closed out with, somebody posted
I wonder that's what I was just going to ask.
2,000. It was slightly over 2,000. I want to say it was like 2,396 maybe was the number, something like that. All I know is that on Tuesday, I submitted an application for a client and it was like 1,215. And then
Okay.
I had some card people that I was recommending that they reapply. But then when we got word that maybe there had been we were told there had been a settlement in concept that had been reached. So I didn't know whether to submit an application for a card person or not. And I was trying to save them the money. Um, so I submitted several applications after the OCM meeting on Friday, or the CCB meeting on Friday. And the numbers were like high 1000s and then going over into the 2000s. I submitted one at about 2:30 in the afternoon and it was number 2215. And then going on up, I watched it through the afternoon and I think it topped out at around 2396. I'm going to say something like that. And that was past 4:30 but not at 5.
Got it.
The other thing you know, I I've gone to school for so much of my life, and I've taught school, and now I'm teaching a law school course at Pace University or Pace Law School, and so that whole deadline of 5 p.m. I had to chuckle over because students now in a digital age look at 11:59:59. That's a deadline. Oh, is it if it's due on November the 19th, it's not due at 5 o'clock. It's not due, and back in the day, you had to hand in your paper. Well, that's way gone. But 5 p.m., like, what is that deadline? A deadline in digital world should be 11:59:59. So I don't know. Let's bring it back to Western New York. So Western New York, to me, is fascinating because you have all of the protections of the state of New York, and yet you don't have a lot of the hassles of the city of New York. You've got a lot more real estate than the people in the city. That doesn't mean that it's free. And honestly, when I drive around Western New York, like the Buffalo area, or the burbs around Buffalo, I think, yeah, that would be kind of a cool place. And I do have a little bit of sticker shock, but I think that's just kind of post-COVID real estate market. Would you say that's true, Nikki?
Absolutely. It's supply and demand. So at the end of the day, we had a lot of people not selling houses because it's really not a buyer's market. It's a seller's market because with the interest rates, things like that. So post COVID definitely had an impact on our real estate market. Like the same house that, now they're in bidding wars where like you get over asking price. So, um, but as far as bang for your buck, the $1,800 600 square foot apartment in Manhattan compared to the I don't know
I want to
$800.
find that apartment. That one doesn't exist anymore.
Really?
No. I
I'm
mean,
just saying.
you're looking at studio apartments that are 400 square feet that are going for 3,500 a month. And you better come up with 3 months of rent for in order to get into that
First
apartment.
class and
So
security.
easily $10,000.
Wow.
Just Lauren is laughing.
Clearly, I don't know New York City real estate.
Oh,
I mean, but we're like in a totally different end of the world. I mean, like, I feel like although we're in the same state, we're so different. I mean, I could not live where you live. All right. You're like my city hero because it's too hustle, too bustle, too busy, too,
but that's
oh
what
my God, there's kids everywhere. There's people everywhere. There's freaking crazy ass taxi cab drivers. Things just move so fast. I'd be dead by the time I was there a week just because I'd walk into moving traffic. I mean, like, there is a lot going on. Not on
there's
purpose.
a lot happening in Western New York. Let's look at I can't tell you
The
how
Erie
many.
County Fair is about as big as it gets, sis.
Okay, the hustle bustle aspect. But I think what I love about Western New York is that people will do their own thing. And they may, in the city, they'll be doing their own thing, but they want to it's a different vibe. So in Western New York, you've got a lot of people who are growing, and they might be growing in their homes or in their garages or their basements, or they might have like several acres that they're growing, and very proudly. And they will, if you stop and ask them, I saw John's remark about the genetics. Yeah, they will give you a dissertation on their genetics and on why that plant is superior. So you've got a lot of cultivators. You've got a lot of people who are, you might have a suburban housewife who's, while the kids are at school, she's making infused brownies or infused dinner, like catering businesses that are going on. You've also got, believe it or not, I mean, a lot of people think that the unlicensed shops are only in the city, but there are a lot in Buffalo. And so I think, I say Buffalo, the whole Western New York, all of it, Rochester, Buffalo, going on down along, you can't see my
Oh,
hand
this
going.
direction.
Yeah, yeah. And so I find it a fascinating place because there's just so much happening, and there's such potential in this cannabis business for people to impact lives with the medicine of the plant, as well as with the good economics of the plant, if we can ever latch onto that piece of it.
Well,
Um,
I've said, everybody's talking about doing hospitality models. And I've said, we live in such a beautiful area. And Niagara Falls, New York, has a cannabis friendly mayor, like Niagara Falls, New York needs some help, right? It needs a little bit of income going in there because
it's
things
very
are,
cool.
it's really sad. There's really sad areas of Niagara Falls. And I mean, like, we literally live by the seventh wonder of the world, man. Like, I mean, take
Literally.
advantage of it, and the wine country we have here, and there's so much opportunity to really focus on a hospitality industry, I feel, in Western New York. And I think that's what we need as a community, whether you're a rec user or, a medical patient. One of the things I find super frustrating is when you're in a nursing home or an assisted living home, literally you have nowhere to consume. You're not allowed to smoke on premises. So to have a consumption place where elderly people over 50 can consume where they don't feel dirty and bad and gross, and yet they're not listening to, hardcore boom, 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 meaty, music that they don't want to listen to, but
Mhm.
have like educational on-site immersion kind of cannabis consumption experiences where there's education, where you have, a commercial kitchen where you can do cooking schools, you can have events, you can have weddings, you can have bachelor parties. You literally create an event center for cannabis that can
Mhm.
have so many purposes. And we can do that in Western New York. We can
Yeah.
tour the farms, easily. I mean, like, who's going to try and tour a processor that's in New York City? It's take even tour the dispensaries in New York City. I mean, that's a lot of traffic, a lot of movement, a lot of stuff. And Lauren, I'm sorry I yucked your yum. It wasn't on purpose. But since my brain injury, like, a lot of hustle and bustle is not my thing. I'm going to MJ BizCon, and like, I'm going to be down for 2 weeks post MJ BizCon because I'm on hard because I want to soak up as many people and knowledge and everything as I possibly can. And I'm still learning who's players here in Western New York. Like, people have been in the closet here. It's not like, I'll never forget when I first became a medical patient, someone said, "You live in New York. What do you?" When Canada closed the border because of COVID, I then was like, "Well, where am I going to get my medicine? Like, what's going to happen?" I mean, yes, I had a medical card, but at that time, I don't think whole flower pre rolls or was available. I think we just had the ground crap, and I remember somebody saying, "You live in New York. What do you mean you can't find weed?" And I'm like, because I live in Buffalo. Just because I'm in the state with NY does not mean I'm downtown Manhattan. I mean, people genuinely really are clueless about the geography of the state, quite honestly. um,
Mhm.
if you're not, but I mean, I'm the same with like California. I mean, Canada, I'm right next to it. But at the same time, like that whole western part of Canada, clueless as far as like Alberta, Edmonton. Yeah, don't know. Um, but the point is we just have a lot of surface area. We have a lot of farmers here, and I'm meeting